I have a really interesting question for all of you. Do you know what makes a good title? Like a title that immediately gets your attention and like you immediately want to read that book. Anyone? Oh, come on, man. Anyways, so I found that two contradicting ideas being in the same title, which is really weird, right? Which was war and saving lives. One killing a lot of people and wasting a lot of money, and the other changing lives, saving lives. And so that's hello everyone, my name is Steven, and today I'll talk about the book The War That Saved My Life, where healing began in the middle of chaos. So the main characters of this book, which is Ada Smith, which is the main character, Jamie Smith, which is like the main character's younger brother, Mam, which is like Ada's abusive mother, and Susan Smith, which is like the foster parent after evacuation. And just to help you guys understand how like evil and cruel Mam is, can I ask someone to go up here to like act with me for a bit? Like, please? No, I see how it is. Anyways, so okay, I'll ask you a question then. Who here is wearing glasses? Just raise your hand up. Yeah, just raise your hand up. Nice. This is what I would say. Hey, you're kind of like me, right? I'm also wearing glasses. But if I was Mam, I would be like, you waste of human garbage. I'm spending all my resources on you, and all you do is play games. So now I have to spend millions on buying glasses so that you can just see. Get out of my house. I'll beat you up, or else get out of my house. All right? You're embarrassing. I don't want to see you anymore. So that's how cruel Mam is. All right? So the story follows Ada, a girl with a club foot, which makes like her feet look like it's mutated, like a zombie. And she has been isolated, she's locked up in a dark room, and she has been taught by her mother that she should not be seen by anyone. That's why she's locking her up. And when World War II begins, everyone evacuates away from London, but Ada doesn't get saved immediately, but it rather takes time. And when she's in the countryside, she met up with like her foster parent, which doesn't want children at first, but she slowly changes. And Ada also finds like a German spy, which she later... And she's recognized as a hero, and that's the end of the story. So the first motive of this story or insight, which is that there are all kinds of war. Normally, when we think of war, it's usually timelines, political figures, and major battles. But that's not the only kind of war. Private violence is a war that's happening everywhere, and like it's currently happening right now, and we just don't know it. Because Michael P. Johnson, a sociologist, have once said that the most common form of terrorism is not committed by strangers in a public square. Rather, it is intimate terrorism, occurring in the private sphere of home where the enemy is someone you're supposed to love. And approximately 3 in 4 children, nearly 1.5 billion, aged 2 to 14 years, regularly experience physical punishments or psychological aggressions from caregiver at home. This data is from UNICEF and the World Health Organization. So if we only put suffering as like public events, like major battles, wars, or terrorist attack, then we ignore the suffering that shapes people the most and that's affecting like almost the majority of the world today, because it can leave you with scars and trauma for the rest of your life. And so this book also shares a very similar motive, which is the 21st Lessons from the 21st Century, written by Yuval Noah Harari. In chapter 11, it talks about modern warfare, which consists of political wars, proxy wars, economic wars, which include like trade blockages and tariffs, and cyber warfare. And so it shares the same motive, which is that there are all kinds of war. This shows that many books are writing about it, which means that it's very much likely true, and that a lot of books are actually trying to spread awareness to show that modern traditional warfare, fighting with tanks and guns, isn't the only kind of warfare. But this chapter also has two more questions, which is that did the war leave you off better than before? Because winning a war with guns and tanks doesn't guarantee a profitable war. Doesn't mean that it's asking like, did you really win it? For example, in the Vietnam War, the Americans lost a lot of lives and a lot of money. And they won a lot of battles and they came to win the war, but they did fail to spread the spread of communism in Vietnam in the end. In the Iran-Iraq War, long major battles with no beneficial gains. You could argue that they gain a lot of money, but I will completely destroy you later. And Iran, which in the 2026 war, they're killing a lot of Iranians with no beneficial gains, and it's just causing a potential threat of World War III. So did they really gain any benefits from this? Quote, they seized more than 500 million from Iraqi banks and later made 500 million more money from selling oil. That's $1 billion. That's a lot of money. But in Iraq and Syria, which are expected to exceed 500,000 lives lost and 2.89 trillion, if your argument was that people go to war nowadays to make money, I'm sorry, but that's just false. Because how can you make $1 billion from that war and you lose 2.89 trillion? You just can't, okay? And so the third final motive of this chapter is never underestimate human stupidity, basically saying how stupid we are. Because, okay, so if we go back to our story, if you think about it, Mam doesn't actually gain any benefits from waging war with Ada, a psychological war. Because she is seen as an evil and abusive mother, and she loses the trust, she takes away the trust of Ada and her younger brother. And she's giving them like permanent scars and trauma for life. So, and our third motive back to our story is care is not just kindness, but is justice, and it needs to happen around the world. Because Ada doesn't immediately heal, and she doesn't suddenly become inspirational, but when she doesn't get punished for making mistakes, she changes. She slowly realizes that she's safe and she is protected and she can trust in the new parent. And so her caregiver doesn't care for Ada perfectly. She doesn't buy milk tea for whenever she's sad, she doesn't take her on holidays whenever she's stressed, and she doesn't buy toys whenever Ada is angry. But she does take care of her, she does give her protection, and she does provide her with a safe home where she can freely express herself. So, and child development research finds that a major protective factor for traumatized kids is a stable, supportive relationship with at least one caring adult, which just shows how important care really is. And our next motive is that rescue doesn't happen in a single moment. Because when I start reading this book, I thought this book is too predictable. World War II happens, she escapes from Mam, and that's it, that's the end of the story, that's how she heals. But she doesn't, because she still faces from trauma, anxiety, and she's still doubting herself. Her scars are still on there. However, she does slowly change throughout the story with the right care from Susan. So these two insights connect with each other. The first talks about how care is important and it needs to happen. The second talks about how care needs to happen through a long period of time and it needs to be consistent. Like, you can't just suddenly take care of your dog for one day and the next day cook him up for dinner, right? So our final motive I want to leave with you guys today is that the bottom isn't the end. Ada starts with nothing left to lose. She doesn't want to be seen by the world. She isn't loved by her mother, like her only emotional support person. And she's just locked in a dark room, so she has nothing left. And her trust is gone. Her confidence is destroyed. Her reputation is broken. And her hope is barely alive. But at her lowest, she knows that there's nothing left to lose. And with the right care from Susan, she changes. In chapter 10 to 11, when Susan doesn't punish her for making mistakes, her trust is rebuilding because she can trust on her new parent. And in chapter 33, Ada identifies a man burying a radio on the beach. And the police later identifies that that person is a German spy. So her reputation is restored. Everyone views her as a hero. And in chapter 43, a doctor's diagnosis destroys a lifetime of shame. Her foot disease has a cure. And so her hope is reclaimed. So with support, those small risks turn into real change. The story shows that sometimes the bottom isn't the end, but it's the beginning of improvement. And here's the final message I want to leave with you guys today. Hitting rock bottom may feel like it's the end of your chapter, the end of your story, can I start again? So hitting the rock bottom may feel like it's the end of your chapter or your story. I mean, if you look on the bright side, you can't fall if you're already on the ground, right? But do you really want to live that way? Do you want to use the bottom as an excuse to give up on your life and dreams? And because your life is like a seed, it has infinite potential. Like, you will grow into a great tree. Are you gonna waste it away? Are you gonna use the bottom as an excuse to give up? Because just like a seed, it needs to be planted deep into the soil to grow into a great tree. And just like you need to hit rock bottom, the lowest point of your life, to become the best person that you can ever be. And so I hope by the end of today, everyone can reach their full potential and become the great tree that they want to be. Thank you for listening.